Alright, so here we got our belt. We got the serpentine belt tensioner tool I've got on there with the 17mm end. You could use some wrenches if you want. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually go counterclockwise, and that's going to take the tension off the belt. As you can see, it's starting to droop right here. Now, just before I do that, what I want to do is I want to break the 3 10mm bolts loose from the water pump. Right now I've got the belt on it, so it's got a little tension, so it might help. I'll try to get a ratchet on there and try to break them loose. I want to leave them on there temporarily, just enough to break them loose with the belt. Once I get the belt off, then I can worry about getting those off then. But yeah, definitely make sure you got the belt on before you break it. Now, before you take the belt off, another item. Draw you a little schematic of all the pulleys and which way the belt's routed. Now, I'm going to cheat for you and give you a illustration near the end of this video that shows you the routing of the belt. So, but in hindsight, if you're ever doing it on any vehicle, if you're taking the belt off, kind of draw you a little diagram on a scrap piece of paper. You know, we got the balancer here, AC compressor, idler, and then the tensioner up here, and then the water pump. Just kind of label them so you'll know which way they go. We got a couple more pulleys too you can't see that are off screen. So what I'm going to do, like I said, we're going to go ahead and break that loose. We're going to, once we get that off and get the belt off, then we'll go ahead and take the 3 10mm all the way off and get that pulley off so that we can access the bolts on the back side, the 12mm that hold the pump to the housing. Alright, so I'm down to that last 10mm bolt. Like I said, I've already got the belt off. So here we go, we got the pulley, and we can set the pulley to the side. Now when you look up in here, you'll see all the 12mm bolts. We've got a total of 5 12mm that go around the perimeter of this water pump. What I'll do is I'll show you off the vehicle as well, so that way you can get a good view of what the bolt pattern is and where it is, and how the water pump is oriented. Because there's a larger area right here with a pressed in bushing that is actually the weep hole. It's actually more like a reservoir technically. It allows a certain amount in there, and once it gets to a certain height, it comes out the top of the reservoir. But nonetheless, that's what we're going to be replacing or getting access to right there. So go ahead and start getting your 12mm off and get you a catch pan put up under the vehicle, because there's still going to be some antifreeze in there that's going to leak out, so definitely take care of that. Alright, got all the bolts out of the water pump. Now the only thing holding it in place is actually the gasket and it being stuck to it. I'm just going to get me a pry bar. I've got my drain pan up under. Get me into a spot I'm going to be happy with and put my hand here to catch it. There we go. Just wait a second and let it drain out as much as possible. And now we'll have access to getting it out. And we're just going to come out through this opening right here. We're going to grab it, shake it loose. It's still kind of stuck. The gasket holds it pretty good. Get another pop this time. There we go. Now we've got it. Now, like I said, we're just going to come out this hole right here. There's our water pump and our gasket. Now what we need to do is we need to make sure that surface is pretty clean, which usually it will be, because the gasket is a metal style that's got some kind of texture to it. So it has a tendency to stay intact, so it doesn't really tear and stay on the water pump housing. But we still want to go around it, make sure it's cleaned up real good, and then we'll get ready to go back and I'll give you some torque specs on those water pump bolts. So here's our water pump assembly and our gasket that goes on the back side. It goes one way. This is basically what it looks like off the vehicle. So if you had any issues watching it as I was filming how to take it off on the vehicle, this is actually what it looks like off the vehicle. Now it basically sits just like this on the vehicle with the larger diameter hole on the bottom, and then you got the upper one right there. So that's where that goes. That's basically a weep hole catch right there. So I guess they allow a certain amount to accumulate in there. Once it comes over the top, then that's when you start seeing your water dripping or antifreeze crusting up around it. So that's our water pump right there. Alright, you got the water pump back in place. Now, for your torque specs, there is no specific order to torque these down, but I would just kind of jump from side to side, kind of a crisscross star type pattern. Now, the actual torque on the water pump bolts to the block are actually 18 foot-pounds. Yeah, I got notes on my hand. 18 foot-pounds for the water pump to the block, or the adapter, excuse me. Now, there's actually a torque on the pulley if you want to try to do that, which being at an angle it's in is almost impossible, but for those that really want to know, the pulley torque is 80 inch-pounds. So you've got 18 foot-pounds for the water pump, and you got 80 inch-pounds for the pulley. Now, I don't think the pulley is really that much critical. I just get it snugged up the best I can. Otherwise, the torque on the water pump bolts will be the one you'd really want to deal with, being that it's aluminum and you've got a bolt going through so you don't over tighten or under tighten. So there you go. Installation is just opposite of removal at this point. You're going to put that you're going to torque it down, put your pulley back on, start running your bolts down the best you can. Then you're going to put the belt back on. With the belt back on, you'll have some tension that will help you tighten the bolts of the water pump. So get those down snug. Then we'll worry about getting the splash hood back on. Remember, there's two 10 millimeters and then 3 push-in fasteners for the fender well liner. And then we'll just worry about putting antifreeze in it. Here's your torque specs. I promised you again. We've got 18 foot-pounds on the pump to the housing. Then we've got 80 inch-pounds now on the pulley to the pump. Now here's what I promised you, the routing diagram of the belt. In case you didn't make a note of that yourself, this is what it should be, and this is what you need to follow.